sound. If your life feels scattered, overwhelmed, or out of control, it's not because you're incapable, it's because there's no structure guiding your energy. Organization is not about perfection, it's about clarity, direction, and discipline. When you organize your life, you don't just get things done, you become the person who can handle more, achieve more, and stress less. Here's how to take your life back step by step. Most people live their lives reacting instead of deciding, and that's exactly why everything feels overwhelming. When you don't define what actually matters, your time gets stolen by distractions, other people's expectations, and endless small tasks that look urgent but carry no real value. The first step to organizing your life is to become brutally honest with yourself about what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Not everything fighting for your time is worth your energy. Start by identifying the core areas that truly shape your life: your personal growth, your health, your relationships, and your long-term goals. These are the foundations. Everything else should either support them or be reduced to a minimum. When you clearly decide your priorities, you stop living in confusion, and start living with direction. Without this clarity, even hard work feels wasted because it is scattered in too many directions. This step is not about creating a long list of goals that you forget in a week. It's about narrowing your focus to what genuinely moves your life forward. You may realize that some habits, commitments, or even people are taking more from you than they are giving. That realization is uncomfortable, but it is necessary if you want real change. Once your priorities are defined, they begin to act like a filter for every decision you make. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You stop chasing things that don't align with your future. Your energy becomes more intentional, and your mind becomes less cluttered because it is no longer trying to balance everything at once. Over time, this clarity creates momentum, and that momentum becomes the foundation of an organized life. Your environment has a silent influence on everything you think, feel, and do, even when you don't realize it. A cluttered space doesn't just affect your eyes, it affects your focus, your mood, and your ability to make decisions. When your surroundings are messy, your mind is constantly processing unnecessary visual noise, which slowly drains your mental energy. That is why organizing your life always starts from the outside before it fully reflects inside. Begin with the simplest actions that most people ignore. Clear the space where you sleep, because that is where your mind resets. Remove things you don't use, don't need, or don't even notice anymore. Every unnecessary object you keep is a small reminder of unfinished decisions, and those reminders build silent stress over time. When you let go of physical clutter, you create room for mental clarity without forcing it. Your workspace matters just as much because it shapes your productivity. If your desk is chaotic, your thoughts will follow the same pattern. A clean, structured space makes it easier to start tasks without resistance. You stop wasting time searching for things and start using your energy where it actually counts. Even small adjustments like organizing files, arranging tools properly, or reducing distractions on your screen can completely shift how focused you feel. Digital clutter is just as powerful as physical clutter. Unused apps, constant notifications, and sound. Organized files keep your attention fragmented. When you reduce digital noise, your mind begins to settle into deeper focus instead of jumping from one thing to another. This creates a sense of control that most people are missing in their daily lives. The truth is simple. Your environment either supports your growth or silently slows you down, and once you take control of it, you begin to feel a level of mental clarity that makes everything else easier to handle. A chaotic life does not need more motivation. It needs a structure that you can rely on even when your mood is low. That is where a simple daily system becomes powerful. Without a system, every day feels different, and every decision feels heavier than it should. You wake up and start reacting to whatever shows up first, instead of moving with intention. Over time, this creates exhaustion because your mind is constantly deciding instead of following a clear path. A daily system is not about filling every hour with strict rules. It is about creating a predictable rhythm that reduces mental pressure. When your brain knows what comes next, it stops wasting energy on unnecessary decisions. Even small structure brings stability. Waking up at a consistent time trains your body and mind to be ready instead of confused. Starting your day with a clear direction, even if it is just writing down a few priorities, gives you control before the world starts demanding your attention. The most effective approach is simplicity. Trying to build a perfect routine usually fails because it becomes overwhelming. Instead, focus on a few key actions that repeat daily. When you commit to doing the same essential tasks every day, they slowly become habits, and habits remove the need for constant motivation. That is where real discipline begins to form naturally. A strong system also includes time for rest, because an organized life is not about constant work. It is about balanced energy. When you plan your day with intention, you reduce stress because you already know what deserves your attention. You stop overthinking every task and start executing with clarity. Eventually, your days stop feeling random and start feeling guided. That shift alone can transform your productivity, your confidence, and the way you see your own potential, because structure turns ordinary effort into consistent progress that builds over time. Sound. Ying, to do many things at once, feels powerful, but in reality it splits your attention into pieces that are too small to create real progress. Multitasking gives the illusion of productivity, but it slowly destroys depth. When your mind keeps switching between tasks, it never fully settles into one direction, and that means nothing gets your full energy. You end up working longer, feeling busier, but achieving less than expected. Focus is the opposite of that scattered energy. When you commit to one task at a time, your mind begins to settle into a rhythm where clarity replaces confusion. Instead of constantly restarting your attention, you build momentum in a single direction. That momentum is what produces quality results, not rushed effort across multiple unfinished tasks. Most people underestimate how much mental energy is wasted when they jump from one thing to another. Every switch has a cost. It takes time for the brain to refocus, and during that adjustment period, efficiency drops. Over time, this becomes mental fatigue, not because the work is hard, but because the attention is unstable. Training yourself to focus starts with simple discipline. You choose one task and sound. Stay with it until it reaches completion or a clear stopping point. You remove distractions that interrupt your attention, even if it is just for a short period of time. That space of uninterrupted effort begins to rewire how your mind handles work. As this habit builds, your ability to think deeply improves. You start noticing that tasks which once felt overwhelming become manageable because they are no longer competing for your attention. Your mind becomes sharper in execution, more stable in decision-making, and less reactive to constant interruptions that once controlled your pace. Time is one of the few things in life you can never get back, yet most people treat it like it has no value. They spend it without awareness, react to everything that comes their way, and end the day wondering where it all went. When your time is not controlled, your life is not controlled. That is the reality behind chaos. Not lack of ability, but lack of direction over how each hour is spent. Taking control of your time starts with intention. Instead of waking up and letting the day decide for you, you decide what the day is going to look like. Even a basic plan changes everything. When you already sound. You know what matters most today. You stop wasting energy on random tasks that don't move your life forward. This simple shift turns confusion into clarity. A powerful habit is planning before the day begins. When you prepare your direction in advance, you remove hesitation. You are no longer asking yourself what to do next every hour because your priorities are already defined. This reduces stress and increases execution because your mind is not constantly switching between options. Another key part of time control is learning to protect it. Not every request deserves your attention. Not every distraction deserves your response. Every time you say yes to something unnecessary, you are quietly saying no to something important. That is why boundaries are essential if you want an organized life. When you start respecting your time, your energy becomes more valuable. You begin to notice how much of your day was previously wasted on things that never mattered. Slowly, your schedule becomes more intentional. Your actions become more meaningful, and your results start reflecting the discipline you have built through conscious control of every moment you are given. Discipline is what Rima found. ends when motivation disappears, and motivation always disappears. People often start strong, full of energy and excitement, but the real test of life begins when that feeling fades. At that point, only discipline decides whether you continue or quit. An organized life cannot be built on emotions because emotions are unstable. It must be built on consistency, even when there is no immediate reward. Building discipline means learning to act without waiting to feel ready. You do the work even when you don't feel like it, because you understand that waiting for the perfect mood will keep you stuck in the same place. Every time you choose action over comfort, you strengthen your control over yourself. That control becomes the foundation of structure in your life. Discipline also means keeping promises to yourself. Most people easily commit to others but break commitments to their own goals without thinking twice. When you start respecting your own decisions, your self-trust increases. That self-trust is powerful because it reduces internal conflict and creates stability in your behavior. Resistance will always show up when you try to stay consistent. Some days will feel heavier than others, and that is where most people stop. But discipline is built exactly in those moments when continuing feels difficult but you do it anyway. That repeated effort slowly shapes your identity into someone reliable, focused, and steady. Over time, discipline removes chaos from your life without you forcing it. You stop relying on last-minute effort and start living with structure. Your habits become automatic, your decisions become clearer, and your progress becomes consistent. What once felt hard becomes your normal way of living, and that is where real transformation begins, because your actions no longer depend on how you feel, but on who you have decided to become.